definitely many changes have come, and they will continue to, because people like yourself believe in those changes. And even if it's one person at a time, there is hope to make that change and to make things better. And we just can never give up, ever.
Hello and welcome. As always, I'm Abbie. This is Stories Lived, Stories Told, and today I invite you to join me in conversation with Yolanda Soto as we take a communication perspective on what it takes to combat food waste. To take a communication perspective is to consider what we're making and how we're making it through our communication practices. This means that we look closely at patterns, context, stories, and relationships, and that we use curiosity, mindfulness, collaboration, and dialogue to create better social worlds. So whether the topic of today's conversation is familiar to you or not, the hope is that by using a communication perspective, we will reveal new ways of seeing and being. At the top of the episode, you heard our conversation partner today, Yolanda Soto. Yoli is the CEO and president of the Borderlands Produce Rescue, and she has been for 30 years now. Borderlands is a produce rescue located in the border city of Nogales, Arizona. Different from a traditional food bank, Borderlands is focused on saving food that would otherwise be headed for the landfill, where it would produce harmful carbon emissions. This is the second conversation in our sustainability series, and I mentioned last week that I want you to hear that literally, sustainability as the ability to sustain. And the work that Yoli does with Borderlands is certainly guided by the need for creating more sustainable practices, in their case, as it relates to our production and consumption of food. I'm really excited to share this conversation with you today, so let's begin with Yoli. Hello, Yoli. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation.
Thank you for inviting me, Abbie.
I'm really looking forward to talking with you and hearing about you and your work. So I say let's just dive right in. Can you introduce yourself to us?
Okay, my name is Yolanda Soto, and I'm the CEO, president of Borderlands Produce Rescue, and have been for 30 years.
And you are located in Arizona, is where Borderlands is?
Yes, we're located right at the border of Mexico and Arizona in Nogales. I was born and raised here, so been here many years.
Yeah. Okay, so what is Borderlands?
So what Borderlands is originally it was a food bank, non-traditional food bank. And the reason it was non-traditional is because we are at the border and we share the produce with our sister city, sister state of Sonora. This product comes from Mexico, so how are we not going to share? And so because of that, we were very non-traditional.
Yeah. And now you are a produce rescue. What I appreciate the language that we use too.
Right. We actually stayed as a food bank once I came on board. Really, I came on board and developed the whole program of food banking. We reached out our community, a few board members, a few of the important people of our small little community reached out to the big city of Tucson and asked to help manage the food bank that they wanted to get started. They hired me. Immediately, I realized that I didn't like food banking. I think that it's great. It's necessary for some people, but I didn't like the fact that you had to qualify people financially and residentially, especially because we are a border community. Yeah. And the fact is that we have many undocumented people who live in Nogales, and I wasn't going to say, well, I can't help you because you don't have the proper documentation. And so right away, we realized it was maybe we were a year into it. We realized that what are we doing here? We sit right in the center of the produce industry. Let's just start doing something with nutritional value. As I said, food banking is great. At that time, it was a 30-pound box, emergency food box, and maybe another 30-pound box if someone qualified to pick up the governmental product, which used to be called the old cheese program. And so, for a month, I really didn't think that helped much. And so we decided, let's try to help people eat nutritiously by rescuing the produce that isn't being sold.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we got into Borderlands Produce Rescue.
Yeah, well, that's good to know kind of the meaning behind the name and what differentiates you from a food bank. Because I think probably a lot of people don't know about what you're referencing, the kind of things that get in the way that make food bank not actually as accessible to everybody, especially in the community that you're in. So it's so interesting to me how you can kind of address two issues at this intersection of you are feeding people who are hungry and also addressing this issue of food waste, which I think is one that people probably aren't as familiar with, or it's not as present for people. They're not seeing it. Doesn't happen right in front of them. So could you tell us a little bit about what food waste is happening and how Borderlands interacts with that?
Well, that is one of our biggest challenges, Abbie. Our mission is dual. And so what it is absolutely rescuing this fresh produce, ugly produce, so to speak, so that we can get it out to people so that they can eat nutritiously at a very low contribution cost. But the main mission is educating people on curbing food waste. And it has become a real challenge because, of course, people immediately go to the programs like ours, alternative markets, and they go to pick up veggies to help their families, to help their clubs, to help their neighbors. But they forget about asking the why. Why are we there? How we do it? Why we're doing it? And again, I think it's everybody's obligation, especially nowadays, to be able to curb food waste and help save our planet. And so we do a great deal of educating, but again, it's a volunteer program. Volunteers come and go. It's not the same ones. We are a small organization, so it's difficult continuing the training. If I can't even train my own people to understand why we do what we do, it's difficult to train those others. It's a big challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my hope too, is that being able to have you on this podcast can hopefully extend the reach and the knowledge too. So what would you say, what would you want people to know about food waste? I
want people to know that they need to stop it and they need to reach out to alternative markets like Borderlands Produce Rescue. I don't know anybody that is exactly like us and does what we do. But again, I'm sure there are. And it's a big challenge. I know that people are hurting. There's a lot of budget constraints. So naturally, the first thing that they are thinking of, hey, let's go pick up some fresh veggies and fruits, which are a very expensive commodity at a great contribution cost. But they don't stop and say, why are these people doing this? Where are they from? What's happening here? And those are the questions that I would like all of our supporters to start asking and spreading the word one by one. That is so important because we know that there's nothing better than word of mouth advertising.
Why does the process of food waste matter? Again, I think that's something maybe people don't understand, that if you're throwing something away just because it doesn't look as good, or you think it's bad, even though maybe you could still be used, that it's not just throwing it in the trash and then nothing happens, that there are all kinds of environmental impacts, really starting from what went into creating this food that you're just throwing away, and then in the throwing away of it, what it creates as a result.
Absolutely. And it creates a lot of bad gas emissions. And so in the 30 years that we've been doing this, Abbie, we have approximately have rescued about 7,800,000 pounds of fresh produce.
Wow.
And we've put that through our 4 different major programs. That amounts to about a little over 1.5 billion pounds of bad gas emissions that we've kept out of the landfill. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And those gas emissions, people don't understand that one at a time, we have created the problem with hurting our planet. A lot of people don't like the word climate change, but let's face it, we're seeing it on a daily basis. And with this type of produces a tremendous amount of bad gas emissions. And so we want to try to keep it out as much as we can. Let's use it for compost, what we cannot, what perished, what we're not able to eat. But also what we're trying to do is let's go back to how it used to be a little bit, and let's freeze, let's dehydrate, let's can, let's put things into jars, let's have it prepared and ready for us to be able to use. Again, the economy is killing all of us. I'm really grateful that those people who are able to afford more than others are definitely learning to pay it forward. And I'm very grateful for that. We have, I'd say 50% of the supporters that we have are those who are doing just that.
As far as people that use your produce rescue, pay it forward for others to be able to have access.
Use our programs and pick up the produce. They can afford it. They pick up 3, 4, even 10 boxes, and they spread the wealth to their neighbors, to their clubs, to their churches, to the people on the street. As we know, most veggies can just be eaten raw. And so you don't have to worry about helping those people who don't have the appliances needed to cook up. It's better to eat it raw anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you talk about, trying to eliminate food waste, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not just talking about even on the individual end, but also the companies that produce the produce and ship it, that they're also a lot of times responsible for creating food waste. And so you work directly with them. Is that correct?
Well, that's exactly right. And there's a lot of criticism of the produce industry. About 1/3 of what comes through our border here from Mexico via the United States and Canada for sale, an approximate 1/3 of it is for the United States and Canada to be purchased at the grocery stores, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very low percentage that the produce industry is not able to sell. I'm thinking maybe 6 to 7% at last time that we actually did any kind of a survey about it. Mm-hmm. And so I really believe that the produce industry is doing a great job. But again, it's the consumer. This is a consumer-driven market. Yeah. And maybe all of a sudden the consumer doesn't want to eat eggplant for some reason. And all of the growers, they grew all this eggplant because last year everybody wanted eggplant.
Right.
And the distributors have the contracts with the growers in Mexico, and they think, oh, great, not a problem. I'm going to sell all this eggplant. But all of a sudden it stagnates because the consumer doesn't want the eggplant. Or so many reasons. And so a lot of what we do, of course, is also educate the consumers, educate our supporters on how to use the products that maybe aren't cultural to them or not popular, or they just don't want to have anything to do with it, especially the youth. The kids are what also drive what mama goes and buys at the supermarket.
Yeah.
No, I don't like that product. But if you teach them from the very onset different ways to fix things and how good the product can be, and that's the part of education that we find a challenge because we are a small organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious, what do the educational programs that you do look like? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so we're always seeking. We have a great website and we have great social media. We have great supporters, way over 60,000 now, that send out recipes. And we love it because they're recipes on how to fix. Oh, we have some spaghetti squash this week. How about trying this? Baking the spaghetti squash and putting some feta cheese in the center and putting some of the grape tomatoes that we also received from you on top and a little oil. So we get those people and they are so engaged with what we're doing and using that produce and teaching others. And for that reason, for many reasons, but I love social media because it gets to many, many people.
Yeah.
And we really need to go back to the olden days and let's start doing stuff like this so that we can help each other eat nutritiously at an affordable contribution. And I keep saying contribution, and I use the word contribution and donation only because we feel that people do not value anything that they receive if a value is not put on it. Whether it's a penny or two, or what we do, 21 cents a pound for a variety of produce that they receive. In one of our programs, it's up to 70 pounds. Definitely people will, I believe in what I've seen through my experience, they will value things much more than just giving it to them, pick it up. They don't care. They got it for free. Maybe they dump it. And so we feel that putting a value on it has helped. And of course it helps us. We're a small organization. We don't work with government funding. We definitely work with donations from communities and from family donations. And so we need the help.
Yeah. And you're not just serving your local community anymore. Is that right? That you've also expanded and provide and redistribute produce to people in other states as well, even beyond Arizona?
Absolutely. For the 30 years that I've been doing this, we've always had an outside programs, not just Arizona, not just our county, not just our city, but also about 23 other states that we offer this product to. Whenever we have a saturated market, and we've saturated Arizona, we have a lot of eggplant, a lot of cucumber, a lot of watermelon, and I start offering it out to our hunger organization partners. And we ask them for a 4 penny a pound contribution to help us because, of course, we have to pick up the product. We have to stage it in our warehouse. We have to unload it and then reload it on the tractors that are sent to pick up the product to go out of state. Yeah. And that program is called Produce Travels. Our Arizona program is our largest program, and it's called Produce on Wheels Without Waste. And we use the acronym POWWOW with periods after each letter. And I really want to state that clearly because, some people don't like you to borrow their language, although we all borrow each other's languages in order to be able to communicate. But again, it's just an acronym. And I love acronyms. Our program here locally is called Veggies Are Us. And then our PAC program, PAC, stands for Potpourri for Animals and Compost. At my age, it's easier to remember acronyms.
Yeah, no, that was definitely helpful. That's really neat. I'm curious, you said you've been doing this for 30 years. What are the experience you've had? What have you seen that led you to feel passionate about this work and to see a need for the work that the Produce Rescue is doing?
Waste, too much waste and too much need. And I used to work for the court systems for 13 years. And so I saw, of course, a lot of need among the people that we would deal with. I saw that there were a lot of crimes committed because of food insecurity and reasons around food. I think that meals are the most important thing that bring families together. And I think that everybody should be able to share in that and participate and have nutritional meals. I saw that there's a lot of racism involved in food systems, and I don't like it. I think that everybody has the inherent right to eat nutritionally. And that's what we're trying to do. Make sure that there's a lot of food in the United States. We just need to find ways to get it to people.
You say that, surely there are other organizations that are maybe have similar missions to you, but not enough, probably. And so it's a bummer, but also kind of makes sense that maybe what you're doing is unique. I'm curious about why is the produce industry, why are these bigger companies themselves not making more of an effort to reduce food waste? Why do we need organizations like yours right now?
Because we all have certain things that we do. And big corporations, do they really care as much as they should? No, they don't. And that's a fact. They care about their profit margin. It took a long time and it continues to happen that we have to be educating the produce industry. Why would you dump instead of donate to us? Why is it so much easier? It's the grower's money. I understand that is paying for the dump. Please start thinking about paying it forward and making the effort. I believe that more and more we want to deal with companies that are conscientious about recycling, about not wasting. And so I think that that's the main answer, because I really don't think at the corporate level that they're going to say, well, come on, let's be more conscientious about
Yeah.
what we're doing. It's people that's going to make them change their mind, I think.
Yeah.
It's getting there, and I'm really impressed because, again, we went green. I wish that more of the hunger organization didn't try to reinvent the wheel, but would be helpful to each other and being able to spread the wealth, helping each other. But that doesn't happen. Hunger organizations are just like corporations, and it's highly political. I left the court system because of the politics, and believe me, hunger organizations are just as political.
I guess to put what you're saying in my own words, what I'm hearing you say is that it's maybe, hopeful, but a little unrealistic to think that these bigger corporations themselves are going to kind of come up with these solutions. So there is a real need that you're fulfilling with the Borderlands Produce Rescue to come in and, like you're saying, say, well, hey, instead of dumping, why not donate? Do you find that that's an easy transition and that most companies just really hadn't considered that? Or is that kind of a difficult sell to make?
It's difficult. It's a difficult sell to make. I have been selling it for 30 years, but in those 30 years, I educated certain companies, then maybe they went under and new companies came up. So it's a constant education of the new companies, or maybe the father's retired or the mother's retired and the kids took over. So it's another point of educating. We are not a priority, in other words. If it's convenient, they understand that they want to save, that they can save monies or that they can help the grower with the monies being spent. That's really their priority. Of course, they're in it for the profit. It's not a nonprofit like us. And so again, it's just a matter of more and more and more education around everything that we need to recycle, to include clothes and appliances and furniture.
Absolutely.
Everything. There's so much out there that we need to do. I love it when I see the youth come up with these wonderful ideas on Instagram that they're taking their clothes and they're recycling them and remaking them and reliving them. It's wonderful. And so basically that's the idea that we want to also get across to everyone. And we're really happy when the youth volunteer. You know, we're a complete volunteer organization. And we love it when we have, especially clubs, groups of youth that come over and help us out on the Saturday at our Arizona program, because it really gives them a hands-on idea and sight and learning experience of those people, and especially the ones that are in great need. And they'll come by and say, you know, I'd love to contribute, but I don't have even $1 in my pocket. Hey, no problem. Take it. And if next time you have $1, please come back. And that's what we do. We never refuse anyone.
Yeah, I think that feels really central to your work, is that getting up close and personal and seeing it for yourself, because that's kind of how I think food waste has gone unaddressed for so long, is because it's almost like out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people.
Correct.
They're not seeing the immediate effects of it, or they're not educated about it, like you're saying. And that's how we got connected, is that Kim, who I work with, came and volunteered with you and was so moved by what you do that then she was able to connect us. And here we are. And hopefully, you know, so many more people are educated based on this conversation, and that creates its own ripple effects. It's really cool to me to see what you're doing as part of this larger movement. You're talking about many different programs that you're seeing that have this similar focus around reducing waste. And I'm curious, in your 30 years of working and directing the Borderlands Food Rescue, what kind of positive changes have you seen happen as a result of your work, maybe in your community, in your life, or on a bigger scale even?
Well, I see a lot of positive changes, slow coming, but definitely a lot of positive changes. And as I said, those people we've had so many people come and interview and do videos and put us on different shows. And I mean, we were even on Netflix. And so I think that all of that is so important for the word to get out and for people to understand what's happening. And I see that they are understanding. There's going to be negativity because that's just human nature. But I can see the percentage is low of the negativity, and the percentage, the other side of being positive and using the market and I think that the impression that people get also when they show up to one of our markets and they see all these pallets that are 7-8 foot high of fresh produce behind the tables where the people are boxing and packaging so that they can give out the box to the supporter. I think that definitely makes people stop and think, wow, I go to the market and I see little things. This is a lot of produce that we can help save and we can help use it. I do have some people that will say, oh, well, everything that I got was perished. Well, then you shouldn't use our program. It's not for you. And it's okay. You tried it, but not everything is for everyone. But those people who, write and say, I loved what you had. I used it in this, and they will set out things on their kitchen island and show us everything that they're doing and show others through social media. I love that. Social media has made a huge positive change in what we're doing. It has grown our program tremendously. And I really, really enjoy that. I enjoy the fact that we don't solicit host sites through our powwow program. We wait for them to solicit us because we've learned through the years that if people don't know about you and you go knocking on their door and try to convince them to come on board, it doesn't work. And we're like any other organization. We have policies and procedures. We want them followed because food safety is at the helm of what we do. We've been very lucky. In 30 years, we have never had a recall on any product that's ever been donated to us. But regardless, we still follow the product from the donor to the end user in case anything would ever happen. And I really don't know of any organization like us that does that. I think that more importantly for organizations is how much poundage you can get out the door. For us, it's how much good poundage can you get out that door and safe poundage. And that's what's important. Safety is very, very important to us.
Yeah, I appreciate, I think, people talk about like intersectionality, and I think that's really important looking at issues considering sustainability, food waste, the way that we're affecting our planet, the climate, everything. Because all of these issues are interrelated. And so, your work being at the intersection of working at addressing hunger, people who are hungry, and also this food waste and the larger impacts that has, feels so important. And I think, really matters and is kind of zooming out on the situation. It feels like some good perspective. And that's maybe why you have to do some educating, because if people are just kind of like looking up close with their little microscopes, they're not able to see the breadth of the situation and say, oh, well, this is related to that. And here's how this is connected. So that education really does matter. And maybe it is exhausting for you being there 30 years, having to say the same things over and over again to educate new people. But that's something I think about a lot because my podcast is about communication and I just love the language and the words. And I think that can be really empowering to have language around things, to be able to name things. And so that's kind of a step one, is very important, having that language, being able to communicate. But it's important not to stop there, get this language, get this knowledge, and then what kind of action comes from it. And so I can very much see you addressing both sides of this in your work, that you are trying to build up people's competency around this issue, making sure that people are informed, and then doing something about it, kind of tackling it from both angles, which I think is important.
Absolutely. We do have and I get really excited too with the new organizations around the world, like DoorDash. DoorDash reached out to us and whether it's for their benefit or for everybody's benefit, it doesn't really matter. They did reach out and they said, we love your program. How about if we participate, become partners, and we will pay for the Dashers for 3 months, a grant that we got. And all you have to, we will distribute for you. Wow. I got very excited because there are so many people who can't reach our host sites throughout the state of Arizona. They, for some reason, are not able to. And then there are other people who maybe don't want to wait in line, but they want to help the program, or they need produce. And so the Dashers have been great for us. Again, the grants lasted a few months. Then we decided it doesn't matter. There are a lot of people participating in this program. We're going to continue. We'll go ahead and pay the Dasher fee. And we do. And that program has grown tremendously. We probably have at least 250, 300 boxes that are delivered from every weekend from each host site. So that makes a big difference in reaching those who can't reach us. I love the newness. I love that we get a lot of students. Of course, we have the University of Arizona and Arizona State University, and they're reaching out constantly. Again, is it convenient to them because they need to fulfill this project for themselves? It doesn't matter if it is or not. I love that. As a matter of fact, yesterday I met with a young woman from Indonesia. I met with her in Tucson for an interview. And she's doing a paper on food sustainability, and she wanted to interview and learn about the program. And, I'll make that trip. It's 60 miles, 120 round trip, whatever it is, and the time, because that one person I know is going to reach a lot of others. And you know what? I never tire of the education. I never tire of the people wanting to learn. I love it.
The kind of perspective that I use is what I call a communication perspective, and going beyond just the words that we say, but all of the communication we do and the relationships we build, and a really big part of that being stories too. And so as I've been thinking about this conversation, the work that you do, and kind of using that lens, one way that I'm seeing it is to say that there's been one kind of story that's been told about our relationship to food. I think about my own relationship to food in being, and how I was raised. Like, there's not a lot of conversation. There's not a lot of knowledge out there about trying to create this more mindful relationship to food that is not wasteful. And so I see that as kind of like an old story. And then we get to come in and have the opportunity to say, okay, this is the story that's been handed to us, which is one that's telling us that you can waste food, and it doesn't matter what the effects that your actions have on the planet, because we don't think about those things. We don't prioritize those things. We can be handed that story and kind of look at it and say, do we buy this? Like, does this serve us? Do we agree with this? And then we get the choice, because we're participants in the world and get to, make choices and affect change. We get to say, I think we're going to try to start telling a new story. So your work is part of this new story that says, no, this is actually what our relationship to food needs to be. And it matters that we're not creating all this waste. And it matters that we're not creating all these gases that are harming the climate. All of these things matter, and it matters for us to be mindful about it.
I love the way you put it. And you're right. Storytelling is so important. And if we can get those stories to be told, as you're saying, by the future, the young people, and there's so much depression amongst our youth because of what we've done to the planet and because of what's going on. Not that it hasn't been going on forever. Some people will say, hey, this has always happened. Well, but you can't accept that. You have to accept change. Change is very important, and it has to happen. And we have to help each other so that we leave our footprint, first of all, on this planet, and we continue to leave it on the planet.
Yeah, the other language that's coming to me as I think about this is considering the context and how that shapes us. Because like you're saying, we have to believe that we can change things. Because if we don't, then you're just hopeless. And what's the point, and why do anything? But if you really believe that you can create change, part of, again, my communication perspective is rooted in this specific communication theory called coordinated management of meaning, which is very complex, but there's some really great truths at the core of it. And one of these very important parts of it is this understanding of not just looking at context as, this kind of thing that's floating over us, but within that, these layers of context, that we have the context of our individual relationships, but then the larger context of our communities and our society and our culture, and how are all of these things shaping us? And importantly, which one's shaping us the most, kind of seeing it as a hierarchy so that we can kind of answer that question of like why or what's motivating us in a moment. And so I also thinking like, okay, these big companies, their highest level of context, what is motivating them the most is profit. And so, yes, they dump food, but if we can kind of change individually and as a community, as a culture, change our highest level context to be one where we are most motivated by creating sustainable practices around our food consumption and ending food waste, then that changes what I think we think is possible, and it changes how we act to make the choice to be motivated by something different or kind of hold ourselves to this different standard is how I see it.
Absolutely. And we have changed many of the very huge organizations, we meaning the people, because even USDA that used to say, anything that's expired, throw it away. They've changed and they say, no, use your common sense. Use your smell, use your taste. Just because it's expired doesn't mean that it's bad. Think on this. And so definitely many changes have come, and they will continue to, because people like yourself believe in those changes. And even if it's one person at a time, there is hope to make that change and to make things better. And we just can never give up, ever.
Yeah, I had a previous conversation with a woman named Beth Fisher Yoshida, and she's done a number of things, written a book, talks a lot about negotiation and when women specifically. And she used this anecdote last time we spoke that really stuck with me, saying that, there was a time when nobody knew how to ride a bicycle. And then somebody rode a bicycle, and just knowing that someone else had already done it made it easier for everyone else to do it. And I think of it like that. And that's why that individual level does matter, because if you can interact with people that are like, I'm thoughtful about my sustainability practice, then maybe that makes you go, I could probably also be thoughtful about my sustainability practices. It's tangible. It's doable for people that way.
I get a lot of requests. Another big challenge for me has been, of course, and it's, I'm already older. I should be retired, actually, but what would I be doing at home? And so, but I do get a lot of requests from outside the state of Arizona, people knowing about us and saying, could you come and train us? We want to do the same thing. How did you do it? Well, of course I would love to if I was younger, but I would love to if their monies were there too, because that's what I wish that more foundations and organizations like United Way and organizations like Salvation Army, whichever they are that have the monies to be able to partner with people like us and grow what we're doing and spread it out. I was given an award of, I don't know, it could be 7 or 8 years ago from the Nonprofit Times. And the whole real reason for it was to be able to teach what I was doing to others, but there was no money there. And then the organization that reaches out to you, there are no monies there. So if someone up there would realize that you want to connect all these dots and how much more you could do, it would be great.
Yes, that's kind of a good, call to action, say that it is the individual level and that matters. And then also systemically, we have to have money behind it to be able to make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, that's to me is part of this kind of intersectional lens too. That's just realistic to say, okay, at this intersection we're trying to function at, we also exist in a capitalist society in the United States. And so this money really does matter and can be used. But yeah, I'm hopeful that us having this conversation and being able to share it can be part of, again, this continued education and just hopefully this big push towards more and more action inspired by what you do. And so I'm hopeful that resources can continue to expand your work in the way that you need them. Yeah.
And I want to tell you, besides the fact that everything we do is with the help of volunteers. Most of our programs, of course, all of our programs. But I want to say that we also have a great program with the Arizona Department of Corrections. And not a lot of people have those programs. I am
Yeah.
a firm believer in not imprisoning people unless it's for a violent crime. I think that we need to back off on and do more education and more rehab in helping people. But the way we help is that the unit that we get our helpers from that are incarcerated is in Tucson, Arizona, and they're driven down here 4 times a week, and they stay an approximate 7 hours. And they really are the backbone of what we do, because with
Wow.
our small staff, it's 7 people that we have, we could never accomplish, rescuing 20 to 40 million pounds annually of produce and distributing it as we do.
Yeah.
Without them, it could not be. They're wonderful people who have made mistakes and gotten caught. We didn't get caught when we made our mistakes, maybe, but whichever, they have great talents and they are able to help us with the resources that we're lacking, like mechanical, construction, all that type of thing. So I'm very grateful for that program.
Yeah, that's really incredible. I'm glad that you brought that up. It makes me think, for people like me, maybe people who are not local to you in Arizona, how can we be involved with the work that you're doing?
By contributing and by
Mm-hmm.
spreading the word. I'm always out there saying, hey, some of you students out there that are in the realm of maybe writing, how about contributing some of your time and writing a grant for us? It would be great. Absolutely great. Have I found them? No, but I'm still looking. And I never give up.
Good.
Everybody I talk to, I'm always the retirees. Well, what did you do in the past? Were you a writer? Would you like to write? Would you like to help? And, it's contribution. There's a lot of volunteerism in the United States now, which makes something that I've seen also grow. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
People are caring more.
I see that too. Yeah. As we wrap up our conversation, first of all, thank you so much. I've been so excited to hear everything you've had to share today. And how I kind of like to end, I just want to give us one more moment to wrap up, maybe recap some of what we've talked about, and just give you a chance to, in your own words, say, thinking about your work as being part of this new story about food and food waste and hunger. What would you say is the new story that you're trying to tell through this work?
Well, the new story, of course, is really almost everything that we do is around food. Whether we go out to restaurants and meet our friends or dates, or everything seems to be around food.
Yeah.
And so because of that, be more conscientious about that food that you have in front of you. And I also have noticed that restaurants are getting the picture of waste, because it seems like their portions are smaller.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the profit margin or because people are saying, this is too much. This is too much, and they waste, and maybe they don't take home.
Yeah.
And so I think that people are definitely learning and paying attention. And I just want to say, continue to pay attention and continue to help, because it's imperative that we at least try to save our planet.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about your work?
Just remember, everybody has the inherent right to eat nutritiously. Everybody. And so help each other out. Pay it forward.
Yeah. That's really wonderful. Well, Yoli, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we were finally able to make this happen after so long of going back and forth.
I know.
Okay, that is all for our conversation with Yoli. At the end of each episode, I like to offer questions for us to reflect on. This acts as an next turn so that the conversation doesn't stop when the episode does. Today, the questions I would have you think about are: what can you change today about the way you relate to food that would minimize your food waste? And also, what is the highest level context that is guiding you when it comes to how your actions affect the planet? I'm really inspired by this conversation with Yoli today to try to start thinking about this and being more mindful of it. And of course, that highest level context question uses some of the CMM language that we've used before. If you want to learn more about that, there's an early episode that I did about the hierarchy model. That's where that language comes from within CMM. There's also a YouTube video I created that's even shorter and just a brief introduction to the hierarchy model and the way that we're shaped by different levels of context. So if you're looking to learn more about that, I would definitely point you in those directions. You are welcome to reach out to me to share your reflections to these questions, as well as any of your own questions or ideas. You can do that through email, the website, or by commenting on Instagram and YouTube. All the ways to reach me are included in links in the show notes. And the reason I invite you to share your reflections with me is to stay in dialogue. Other great ways to keep dialogue going are to follow the show wherever you listen, leave a rating and review, and most importantly to me, share episodes. Maybe there's a specific topic that was really meaningful for you, or would be interesting to someone in your life. You'd be doing a great service to growing this community by sharing meaningful episodes with other people in your life and bringing them into the dialogue as well. I am supported by the CMM Institute for Personal and Social Evolution, and this podcast is just one of many initiatives that is designed to create space for more conversations that move us toward those better social worlds we hope to create. We have a couple new exciting things to share from the CMM Institute that I want to point your attention to. One is that we've just completed a fellowship with a couple young adults that we're calling the Cosmo Teens, and they've created a mental health comic book, which you can now access at www.cosmoactivities.com to engage teens and young adults in conversations about mental health. That's been a really neat project, and so I hope you'll check that out. Also, we are working on developing the next turn in the Cosmo Activities line, following up Cosmo Teens with Cosmo Parents, creating some resources for parents. I'm a part of that project. I myself am not a parent, so that's why it's so important to collaborate with parents, and I want to hear stories from parents so that we can actually be speaking to the real needs of today's parents. At that same website, www.cosmoactivities.com, you can find the survey that we have going on right now for Cosmo parents if you'd like to participate and share your experience as a parent. Final exciting news is that the CMM Institute now exists on Substack. You can find us there. It's just CMM Institute. I'll include a link to it in the show notes as well. But our hope is that that space can be just a hub of every resource you could possibly need around CMM. Right now, it has the podcast episodes. It's got some infographics that I've been making, and also now houses the informational videos that I've been posting on YouTube as well about different models or different parts having to do with the theory. We also hope that that can be a space for our community to be in dialogue with each other. So that's another great place to interact if you would like to stay in dialogue with us. So anyway, www.cosmoactivities.com is great to go check out all of those resources for free. They're available to anyone and everyone. And then also check us out on Substack at CMM Institute. You can find us there. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being curious. And thank you for being a part of this story. I'm Abbie, and this has been Stories Lived, Stories Told.